All right, so I know. You're like, Darius, you just did a whole bunch of predictions and stuff like that for wildcard weekend. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But while in that, I wanted to also list out the players that I think could be the X factors, or I was like, depending on how you do it, Wakanda, CM Punk, whatever, for this weekend. Because while I was giving down the rundown of how I think the game might go and all this other stuff, I was also like, oh, but there are people I think in all these situations that needs to basically have a can be the change of what the game can be. All right, so I was like, we're just gonna run down a few real quickly. I was like, let's go with the start of the whole thing, the Chargers and the Texans. Now it might be easy to be like the defense or the line or whatever like that. We all know how the quarterbacks play and everything in that regard. But I think in this case, I was like, yeah, but let's look at it a little bit more specifically. Cause I was like, I think, like for instance with the Chargers, I think that it's their running back combo of Dobbins and Gus Edwards, just because they got some really good pass rushers on the Texans. They also got a really good secondary, Jim Ward, I was like Derek Stingley and stuff like that. And I was like, so it's going to be intriguing to see how these receivers, who is like outside of McConaughey, nobody like if you have most general people, they won't know necessarily the other receivers in this case. So you sort of going to have a spot where you kind of just like, oh, they might be locked up in this space. What will open that? The running backs. And the reason I say, I was like, I could have just been like the running game and just have it overall in general. But I was like, I think that Dobbins and Edwards, even though they sort of are they are kind of a little similar. Like they ain't afraid to put that shoulder down and get you. But I also think that Edwards has shown a lot more burst this year than I think I've seen him really with the Ravens. And now that Dobbins have been a lot more healthier this year, I was like, you actually can see that he does got that one cut, and he got a little bit of wiggle with him or whatever. They're not speedsters or nothing like that. Like they're not. I was like, even though Dobbins has had long runs and stuff like that, that would be able to give him his yard special at the beginning of the season. I was like, they're not going to be guys that just necessarily run away from you in that instance. But the whole thing of if you get that going, if you're able to break off their long runs, while it might not just be like those home run stretches you see like from Saquon and stuff like that, is that will open up more for the receivers that I think you can't. I was like, which Harbaugh's not going to do. He's going to try to run the ball, especially with that offensive line. That it will open up for McConaughey to basically be his shifty self and get down the field. And I was like, and Johnson had to come down with contested plays. But I also think that he's also somebody that has to come up big. I was like, I'll go with him also as the X factor, just because I was like, how they're going to play McConaughey mainly because he's the dynamic guy on their receivers. But I was like, Johnson has to come up with these contested catches, especially when you're going to be matched up against somebody. I was like, against Stingley and stuff like that, because I was like, that's sort of his job. He's a big body receiver. And while I was like, he sort of makes me remind me of Vincent Jackson a little bit, whereas like he's like not a guy that's like fast, but he's a deep threat at the same time. Because I was like, he will get down the field on you as well, but he's also a big dude that can also get you a whole bunch of catches as well. That's sort of like the mold I was thinking of as well. I was like, defense, I think that's a little bit more difficult because I think they actually play like a pretty solid unit where it's like I could say like Derwin James, but I was like but they also don't have like a tight end that I'm just like, oh, you got to be afraid of on the Texans. That I was like, oh, Derwin James. I was like also Derwin James. So I was like, it's not. I was like, I don't feel like. I was like. I feel like he's going to always have, because he's always around the ball as well too. So I was like, I can say that as well. That it's like he'll come up, make the big hits, and he'll also come up with a big play, whether that be like an interception or something like that as well too, or just be around the ball in order to sniff it out. They play him along on like round. Like sometimes they have him back, sometimes they have him inside as well because he's so versatile. But Texans, I was like, I think it's Joe Mixon. I was like going back to the run, but just because I was like, because they don't have Diggs and Tank, and I was like, and I think that I was like, Mixon has been basically, even when they have had those guys, I was like, you could tell the difference in the offense when he doesn't really get going. It really change the play pace. But I was like, he can catch the ball and he can also run. And I was like, you're going to have to utilize him, especially against this whole, I was like, this defense as well, that you have Derwin James and Bosa and stuff. I was like, and Mac and stuff, that I think you're going to have to basically use him as much as you can. You might have to nearly run him into the damn ground in order to really get something going. And Schultz, I think I was like, hadn't really been a crazy focal point that I feel like he's been in the past couple years, but I do think that because once again, the receiver that you're going to have to basically utilize him or whatever. I think he's a pretty good tight end. I was like, I don't remember. I was like, the other dude, I know they split carries. I was like, he's been splitting touches with or whatever. But I was like, it sort of reminds me of like the Ravens with Mark Andrews and Likely, where it's like they got two good tight ends that you could use. I was like, so I think that's where their X factors need to be. On defense, I was like the guy that got suspended, because I was like out like Shahir or whatever. I was like their linebacking crew, I think, is going to be really focal point, because I was like, they're going to have to stop these running backs, as I just said, but also the fact that they're going to have to be out. I was like in coverage of basically also stopping some of these short passes, and also I was like, they've been pretty good at also blitzing from the linebacker spot. At times, I was like, especially when they had him around, I was like, I'm not gonna act like I know who the other linebacker is, because I was like, I know they're both captains. I was like, but the name escapes me. Pittsburgh Steelers, Ravens. I was like, to me, I was like, with the Ravens, I think it has to basically be. I was like, I think the sneaky one is going to basically be some combination of kind of like Bateman. That's their main receiver. They're going to try to get him. I was like, they're going to use Likely more. I was like, so I don't think that's. I was like, and Mark. I was like, with Flowers not playing, so I was like, I think those are like obvious. But I think somewhere of the combination of Wallace and Johnson, basically that third kind of receiver, who is going to have to try to do some combination to make up for not having Flowers. That's going to be where I think that the X factor is going to be, because they're going to have timely catches. I was like, Bateman is more. I was like, he can make the contested catch and stuff like that. He plays a lot of downfield. But I was like, I think for those intermediate throws, especially as Lamar's over here trying to get away from Watt and Highsmith and all of them, that I was like, I feel like they're gonna have to play a big hand, and also try like get the ball to him early on screens and stuff like that. Because I was like, especially Wallace, who's been like the returner, so he can. I was like, and Aguilar up there in that mix as well too. They're gonna have to be really accounted for. So I was like, I'm gonna say their trio gonna have to make up for basically Trey Flowers here. Defense, I was like, I don't really have no one necessarily for their defense. I was like, they really sort of, because they're like a clump, I really don't have nobody really for their defense. It's easy to say Hamilton if he plays and stuff, but I was like, I really don't have nobody for their defense. I just think they play a really collective type of ball. Pittsburgh, I was like, I know it's going to be like Pickens or something like that, but I think it's actually going to have to be somebody like Austin or whatever, dude that could take the top off or whatever. You get the ball to him early. I was like, he could do something. I'm really surprised that they don't use Cordell Patterson a lot, because I was like, I feel like he's a good outlet type of receiving running back. That I was like, they don't use him enough. With that, I think Justin Fields. I think you're going to have to pretty much use Justin Fields. I know he's been hurt a couple weeks, but I think he's going to have to be the guy that you sort of use in a lot of these situations. It's a playoff, so I was like, hey, to me, I don't really care about your stats and all this other stuff. I was like, hey, you're trying to win, so I was like, put Fields in. I was like, but put him in to not just run the ball. Put him in at times to throw the ball, have the defense off, and also give him runs that aren't designed. Because I was like, that's where I feel like the damage could be. Because I was like, if the Ravens know you're going to run with Fields, they're going to stop his ass. But if he's able to basically drop back and pass, and then all of a sudden he could like have a chance to run, I was like, that's where I think it'll be dynamic for Pittsburgh and whatnot. I was like, Buffalo Bills. I think that one has to be basically Coleman. I think that while I was like Cooper had really been a quiet addition for them. I think Coleman and his 50-50 ball is basically because I was like they're going to run the ball. They're going to have Josh Allen try to be amazing. James Conner's going to get the ball on running downs, and they're going to always find a way to get Shakir to get the passes. But I was like Coleman. I think in this game when you got a Surtain and you got a Riley Moss, I was like their defense is ferocious. I was like I think while they're going to be running and coming after Josh Allen is going to throw up some balls that are going to have to be like, yo, Coleman, I need you to come down with some. And I think that's going to have to be the guy that basically, because I'm like, it just need to be like 2 or 3 catches, where it's just like, go up, I don't care if it's Surtain, come down with the ball, basketball. That's what it's going to be. Space Jam, that thing. Now, I will say, with the Broncos, I didn't really do anything with the defense of Buffalo, and yeah, I was like, cause I could say like Milano or something like that, but I was like, I don't have nobody for the defense. I'm not gonna act like I do. I'm not gonna act like I'm over here being crazy knowledgeable in a lot of these situations. I was like, I watch the games. Broncos. I will go with the quarterback here. I think it has to be Bo Nix. I was like, I think he has to basically play. I was like, he's gonna play his game, but it's the turnover to his amazing plays, because I was like I said, he'll give you a chance. There will be times here, but don't also get confused that was like you let him have another shot. He do come out with basically the amazingest of luckiest of get that play, like that play that will just like bust the whole game open or whatever. I was like, we've seen it again. I was like, we've seen him against the Bengals. We've seen it against Cleveland. I mean, he's been doing it a quite a bit this season as well too. I was just saying like recently that I was like, I think he is, and I was like, the reason I want to give it to him over like some of the other quarterbacks because him being a rookie. I was like, I think that's the reason. And I was like, the Broncos. I was like, what is his name? Allen. I think Allen for the defense because he could rush the passer, but he does it from coming up from the middle as well. And I think that with Josh Allen, and I was like, I'd rather you have him basically try to scramble and trying to throw those Herculean plays where he just launched the ball than have him sit back there and he gets to decide when he gets to run, or he just gets to decide when he wants to pass. So I think I think he has to be the factor, because I was like, everybody else sort of knows, Benito and all them on the defense, and I was like, they could get to the passer. We already know that, but I was like, I think also the how, because I was like, if you could get from the middle, I was like, those pass rushers will be able to like get him out. I was like, don't get me wrong, he's still 6'5", 250, or 240, whatever. However, he big as hell. I was like Buccaneers and Commanders. The Commanders, I think, is Austin Eckler. I was like, he just came back like about a week ago, and I think he's the X factor just because I was like, Tampa Bay, they do like to blitz a lot. And while Jaden Daniels can run out the pocket and stuff, but I think what's been missing is really that he doesn't have really the pass outlet that Eckler provides. That is just like, if those people come, Eckler could get the ball and he could just take off. I think that he sets up in a way where it's just like, with this defense that's going to try to come after him, I was like, he's going to be the one to open it up. I was like, on the defensive side, I was like, it's not an X factor, but I just can't really wait to see Marshawn Lattimore versus Mike Evans again, just because I was like, especially at playoff time, and I was like, I think he was hurt in their matchup earlier this year, or he might have just got to the team. Either way, we ain't get that, and I was like, playoff time, they're just gonna be scrapping. We ain't had I was like, make you miss the day, the crab tea, and the key to leave. I was like, Tampa Bay. I was like, I think it's Bucky Irvin. I was like, I think if they can get him on the roll, it opens up everything for their team. I was thinking about McMillan just because I was like, Evans is going, but I was like, but if he's going to get one-on-one mainly with Lattimore, that I was like, they'll probably try to figure out a way to take out McMillan. And I was like Irvin. I think if they Irvin and White, cause I was like White's there too. I was like, I think you get the running game basically going. But I was like that. I was like, but he's so dynamic. I was like, he opens up for what Baker Mayfield is able to do, and having the receivers all around the line with Ottoman and stuff like that. Also, why does Ottoman not have like some furniture deal? I just feel like, or they could have did like the Ottoman Empire or something. I was like, I don't know. I was like, they need to get on that. I was like, Tampa Bay. I was like, the defense. I was like, I was like, no, I'm not gonna do Via Veda. I'm just gonna skip them because I was like, I was gonna say Via Veda. I was like, oh, duh, Via Veda. Anyway, Green Bay, Philadelphia. I think with Philadelphia, I think it's Devontae Smith just because I was like, they're going to basically try to give all their coverage to A.J. Brown because you can't cover that dude. With what? That should let up to basically having Freeman be a lot more open on this side of, of whatever Brown is going to do. I think I was like, all the intermediate, I was like, he could play, he could do all the routes. But I was like, I think especially intermediate, I was like, Hurts like he's going to play as well too. So I think especially because I was like Goddard. I was like, I'm pretty sure Goddard was out for the season. So I was like, you need somebody else to come across the middle field, and we haven't really heard him as much since they've been trying to do the whole we could pass the ball. Look at Brown and Hurts connection. I think that Devontae will have the game here. I was like defense. I was like, I really think that as they play with Green Bay, and especially they don't have their deep threat, I think it's somewhere of like Braun and Jean of that intermediate spot or whatever. Because I was like, kind of a lot like with Dobbs and Wills and all, and I was like all their receivers and Reed. I was like they're mostly. I was like like Watkins is really their over the top guy. So I was like, now with him gone, I was like, I think they're just going to have to be playing more so in the middle of the field and stuff like that. So I think that with the coverage of their, I was like, love little linebackers, that's going to be the spot. I was like, the Packers, I think it's going to have to basically be Dobbs. I think Dobbs is going to have to basically be the guy. Kind of like now that Watkins is out. I was like, while they got a plethora of receivers and they got a couple tight ends as well. And I will also say their tight end combination is probably going to have to be needed. I was like in this game because to take advantage of the fact that it's like, do you want to be passing a lot against the Eagles, or do you got to do some hit quit type of things as well too? I was like defense. Yeah, I was like, I don't really have anybody. Like, I know they've been playing well, but I was like, there ain't nobody that I'm just like thinking about standing out here with them. I was like, and a Monday night game was Minnesota Vikings and the LA Rams. I was like, the Rams. I was like their defense. I was like, they're basically the young players of Curse and dang it, I forgot the other big boy name. I was like, pretty much them, because I was like, as we've seen with the Lions, if you could just make it crazy for Sam Darnold, I was like, you could throw him all the way off balance. And I was like, I think that's where that they would have to go for that. I was like, offense, I don't really think that there's anybody that outside of your three-headed monster of Coop, of Puka and Coop and Kyron Williams that is necessarily going to be like an X factor here. I guess maybe Coop, just because of like they ever since Puka sort of like been showing up, they sort of been having less than him. I will say Higbee could be a good X factor here, because I was like, as he sort of came back, they tried to give him a little bit more touches in his game. And I was like, I think that's where you could sort of have, because I was like, while I was like, the Minnesota linebacker, I was like, they're really good at sort of trying to get to the quarterback. And I was like, covered, I was like, I think they could be hands, especially how Brian Flores likes to sort of disguise that. It's like, with Stafford, I was like, you could find like gaps in the zone, and in spots. Minnesota, I was like, to be honest, I think it really depends on what version of Aaron Jones you really get here. I think Akers have been really good of playing with them, but I think that Jones, like, if you get the good version of Jones, you could get a pass catcher and you get a running back that I think is a little bit more dynamic to me than Akers. I was like, how he would play, like, especially when he was playing early in the year. But I think it'll slow down a little bit. And, injuries always get Aaron Jones. But I think I think he gives you a little bit more than Cam Akers, but I would also say Cam Akers. I was like, I think it's really the running game because I was like, I think for the the passing, you sort of know what you get for the receivers and stuff. It just all depends on how Darnold plays. So I was like, I was like, that sometimes can be a little bit out of your control, where it's like you can sort of control how you sort of do with the running game. And I was like, their defense. Man, I was like, that one's sort of hard, but I want to say maybe Van Ginkel because I was like, he always sort of seems to know how to get his hands on the ball. Like he should have had a couple more interceptions in the Lions game, but he always seems to be around the ball. Even when he was with the Dolphins, I was like he could pass rush, but he always just seems to be able to tip a pass or get that interception or be right there when the play is called. So I think that's who I'll give it to on the defense. Anyway, those are just a couple of my X factors. I think I pretty much covered all the games, and I gave you a couple people. Maybe we got a little bit more in depth than from earlier. But anyway, I was like, who do you see as the people that you can see maybe having a big game? I know that's not the same thing as this X Factor thing, but you give me X Factor too. Whatever you want to do, just go ahead and let me know. I would like I said, it's an exciting weekend because I think every team, this is the first time I think we can see every team and we won't be totally shocked. Really, outside of like two, we won't be totally shocked. We'll be surprised, but we don't be shocked. Shout out to Kimberly and Martin. Anyway, let me know what y'all think. Until then, peace. I'm out.